welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And with me, Robbie.
I should have said good day, mate.
Yeah,
I was fighting the feeling there, so there you go.
Yeah, I was thinking we got to start off with some kind of Australian-based pun.
I had no faith in my accents there.
No, you didn't.
To get away with good day, mate.
Yeah,
It was a weak-ass accent. Australian horror we've got here this time. Well, I believe it's pretty much the director, I believe, is Australian and the main actor is Australian. I mean, this is probably where I find out that they're like New Zealand or something.
Yeah,
sorry,
which
guys,
is great.
they've got nothing to do with that, or they're not even Australian at all, and they're just assuming they are because it's a film about sharks and it's based in Australia.
Well, the way in which you could tell is that Australia is sun and sharks, and New Zealand is green and urukai. That's how you can differentiate the two countries if anybody is kind of unsure on how to do that. One has sharks, the other has urukai. Yeah. Just urukai roaming the land.
So, we are literally straight from the cinema after our Cineworlds Secret Screaming. We only did one of these a couple of, last week? Last week we saw the Al Pacino, The Ritual.
Which, if you haven't, we have done a little spoiler-free and spoiler-filled episode. Go check out the episode, obviously. But if you're unsure about going to check out this interesting film with Dan Stevens and Al Pacino in, then go see our thoughts on it.
So this week we are here, and the film revealed was Dangerous Animals by Sean Byrne and starring Jai Courtney. Or Jai?
I keep calling him Jai Courtney.
I mean, if you say it in an Australian accent, it sounds like Jai Courtney. Sounds like that's the way they would say it.
Yeah.
And we'd probably say Jay.
Yeah. However, I'm going to try and refrain from the Australian accent because I realise whenever I do mine, it just goes into being like John Lennon. Which I'm going to steer clear of that as much as I can. And before we get into
I think John Lennon's better than I thought you were going to say, like, Punjabi or something.
Yeah, that would be way off.
It sound like that.
But yes, this is my chance. You know, it was almost seamless, but it's already, the wheels have come off on my plug already. But as I said on our last episode, I did a little bit of research, and only about 25 to 30% of people do hit that subscribe button. People listen to the show but then forget to subscribe. I am guilty of this all the time. I do it. So just use this as a reminder before we get stuck in to check you've hit that subscribe button and leave us a lovely review. And we kept wanting it to be Clown in a Cornfield. The last week we were hoping it would be Clown in a Cornfield. This week we hoped it would be, but it was Dangerous Animals, which we weren't against seeing.
No.
And I didn't realise until, it was a consideration that I went on Letterboxd and I saw that I'd actually watched one of the films by the director Sean Byrne, which was The Loved Ones. And I thought that was a great film. I thought it was he used a really small cast, but he delivered a lot of tension. It was about somebody who's kind of been kidnapped and they're trying to escape, and then they just get there and then they get caught again and they go through this kind of cycle. So it was
seeing a pattern.
Yeah, it's kind of similar in that kind of way, just the very basic beats. He puts his protagonists through quite a lot, and I'm not going to, this is the spoiler free, so I won't give any of that.
This is spoiler free, don't forget that.
And once I realised that I'd seen The Loved Ones and this was by the same actor, I was kind of thinking, yeah, I'm a bit more on board with this. I have to preface this. I have a weird thing with sharks and with the ocean, and I was telling you this as we were on the way back to the car, but I can't watch things that take place in the sea or with sharks. It just fucking terrifies me. I've seen Deep Blue Sea 20 times and it still terrifies me. I don't know why. I just have, even like Jaws 4 probably scares me. I don't know what it is. It just scares me. It's so weird.
It scares a lot of people.
Yeah, but this is like...
It scares Michael Caine.
It scares Michael Caine. That is true. I have this weird thing where I just can't do it. So I think that, there were moments where that got to me about this film as well.
I mean, it's not like that's a... what the fuck are you on about? Like, you're scared of sharks in the water. It's not like that's... most people, like, didn't want to go back in the water. I mean, everyone goes back to Jaws. Everybody classic, and everyone goes, like, that was the reason the generation was like, fuck that, I'm not going in the water.
Yeah, but I don't think people... I mean, they might. People have this weird thing where they're in a swimming pool. And they're like, well, sharks are going to come out of the, the filters and they're going to kill us. That's not something that other people have, I imagine.
That's yours.
That's my thing.
You're sat in the bath.
I'm just sat in the bath. And I'm like, oh, they're coming up the tub.
It's going to come and get me.
It's going to get me.
Just suddenly out of nowhere, just the teeth are going to arrive. Well, I mean, to be fair, then technically there was a horror film, then this technically is a perfect thing for you, really, because if you want to be scared of something, then it's already built in. It's like any film that builds on fears and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think you've got plenty here. If you are like Robbie,
you're one of that.
If you are terrified of sharks, but you would like to get the thrills out of it, or if sharks are your kink, if that's what you're into, watching Deep Blue Sea 20 times or watching it with 20 tissues 20 times.
Yeah. It's a film that gets through a lot of Kleenex.
But yeah, so anyway, back to Dangerous Animals. So it's a pretty simple setup, really. Yeah. It's not an overcomplicated. It's a mashing almost of genres. I'm not saying full on like slasher, but we've got kind of the serial killer film mixed in with the shark film.
Yeah.
We've got a nice mixture, and I think we talked about, obviously, you can tell some inspiration has definitely come. You could say Jaws. I felt it was more like, yes, it is Jaws, but it is more the stuff that was quite stolen from the Hitchcock kind of style. I think there's quite a bit of that built into that, but it also has that kind of dark humour to it as well, that kind of runs throughout it. It is kind of the serial killer, kidnapping, survival kind of film. Not to really like ruin the beats of any moment, but that is what you're in for here. This is a survival film in many ways, but not like they're in the middle of the water for the whole film. It's not,
it's not open water.
Yeah, it's not open water.
There is something in the water, which I watched recently.
Or whatever the Blake Lively was.
The Shallows.
The Shallows, yeah.
I watched these films despite the fact I'm terrified.
I have not seen most of these films. I think I've maybe seen Open Water, but I don't remember.
I've seen most of these films.
But that's a lot of people do it. This is a weird, like, if you're scared of sharks, if you're scared of heights, you go for certain films because you're like, yeah, it's going to freak me out.
Moth to the flame.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that really struck me, and I said this to you as we were walking out as well, was I kind of got like a bit of a Wolf Creek vibe from it.
Yeah.
We have this, the human. Here's a really interesting take for you guys, is that the human was the monster all along. It's really... I came up with that, nobody else. This is my observation.
It's never been said about horror film.
Never been said about horror film or sci-fi film. This is my observation, completely unique, that's only been discovered. And we get this kind of like charismatic villain who's... He's always kind of like one step ahead, and you kind of feel like his presence is very looming in the film. Somebody's running away, or somebody's just about to get it, and you just know they're going to be there.
Yeah.
And in the opening as well, I think it would be one of these films where if you go into it very blind, it would kind of catch you off guard with the opening. But even when we saw the trailer, so we knew the story beats, we knew what was happening.
Yeah.
It still had that kind of like tension of he's saying certain things. And I'm waiting for it. It doesn't feel right, but now I'm waiting for the boat to rock. And I'm really expecting something to happen now.
I mean, to be fair, like what you said, when we only last week I didn't even know this film existed until I saw that trailer last week. I had no idea it existed.
Same.
If you had said to me, if I had not seen the trailer and it had just been, it's going to be dangerous, animals, it's kind of a shark one, it might have intrigued me, but I wouldn't have been so interested. I will be honest, the trailer that I saw actually, just Jai Courtney's performance that I could see in the trailer was what generally made me want to watch this film. I looked at it and I could already tell that we're going to have fun just with him.
Well,
like,
oh man,
and that he is almost the major drawer of this film. Like he is having the time of his goddamn life with this film.
Yeah, and I have this weird thing with Jai Courtney where I remember when he first came about and they were almost trying to push him as like an action star, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
they were trying to go from my recollection. They were trying to go with that like Sam, I can't remember his full name, maybe Sam Edgerton, kind of like Wrath of the Titans.
Yeah,
kind of everything's like really grey. Terminator Salvation.
Yeah, he was
like
in
action films. That kind of
He
stuff.
was in A Good Day to Die Hard, the worst Die Hard film of all the Die Hard films, They tried to box him into the standard action hero. I think he was in the Insurgent films and things like that.
Yeah.
He was in the Terminator film as well, wasn't he? He was in Genesis.
Maybe he was.
I think he was in he was in Genesis. Very similar in each of those films and very bland.
So yeah, kind of like I feel like you're correct. I feel like he didn't really have that kind of vibe.
No.
Whereas when he was, I think it's Captain Boomerang. I think he was in
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. He was fun with like the screen time he had. He was really good. But it seems like when he embraces that slightly more kind of like chaotic, weird character, he really fucking
when he's allowed to go
well.
Australian.
yeah, when he's allowed to
when
go
they allowed
Australian.
him to have an Australian accent, it's like I'm free.
Yeah, when he's American, he's not good.
Yeah,
but when he's just himself, he's a good boy. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe
it's just too much concentration on trying to keep an American accent.
Yeah,
you can't focus on the rest of them.
That's what's really throwing him off.
But yeah. To be fair, Captain Boomerang was the main thing that I knew of him, where he'd kind of been a little bit more let loose. Like he was one of the highlights that made the first Suicide Squad a little bit better than it actually was. And he doesn't last long. Spoiler for that, but he doesn't last long in the second one. But in the short time he does have, he's fucking off the handle loving it kind of thing. We get similar energy here that he's got in this kind of one. He is the shark out of water in this. He is the muscle. He is kind of this muscular. Like you're looking at him, not like muscular, like all chiseled.
You said muscular like 4 times.
Yeah,
to describe him.
It's because he describes the sharks as these muscular, like beings.
He's almost like godlike things.
Yeah, and it's because it's not that although he seems to be somewhat aware in this film and somewhat slightly ahead. He's also not painted as he's not like a brilliant genius here. Yeah, he's not really like ahead in that way. It's just. When you look at him, you're like, yeah, fuck, he's going to overpower me. He is more of that. Yeah, he's going to, even when we have characters who are, around him, you can see they're like, well, fuck, I'm not really going to be able to take you down, am I? I can't just, it's not going to work by just punching you and hitting you. You're not going down like that. You're too big, kind of thing. It's very much that kind of thing. But there's something there's a part of his performance, yes, that is, him very much delving into the wacky craziness of like a Nicolas Cage kind of thing that he's got going on at some points where he's just having fun with it. But then there are these slower moments when he fully goes into predator mode, when he kind of zones out a bit and you kind of see it, and that's when I'm like, the shark is almost there. This odd focus of looking at women and stuff like that he has at certain points when he changes and flips between this kind of fun freedom that he's enjoying it to then focused on the killing.
Yeah, I think he was definitely the strongest of the cast, and it is a relatively small cast. I think there's only 5 or 6 people in it. It's it's not big.
Yeah, there's literally 6 casted credits.
There we go. And
you had Hattie Harrison as Zephyr,
which
weirdest
name ever.
Yeah, but she is our main girl.
Yeah, our final girl.
And then you've got Josh Houston as Moses, who's kind of the love interest slash kind of. I guess he plays a role kind of that is kind of the searcher, I guess.
And they're both absolutely ripped and absolutely slamming bodies, of course.
Yeah, there is a sex scene. If that will draw you in. I won't go into detail into how much dong is hanged or how much tit is shown, but that would be spoilers.
That would be spoilers. But
I literally would have detailed inches that you get to see, measurements and things like that.
Angles.
That's for the spoiler review. If you want to hear those measurements, come back later.
So it's quite like it's quite a small cast. I'm trying to not go into spoilers of the film.
No, I think again it does play a little bit. I will say in non-spoiler terms that the film is a constant cat and mouse. It does play with your expectations. Yeah. It has a quite interesting like kind of opening that kind of plays off again, like you said before. If you're going into this completely blind, then the opening might kind of be like, oh shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Kind of really like off key. It gives some time, as we've only got a small cast, you get enough time to build the character here with those parts. But again, this is hard without jumping through the plot. This is a hard one almost to review because it's kind of everything. It feels like if you talk about the next part, it's all part of the spoilers.
Yeah, it's tricky.
But in terms, I think it's easy to just go into. So one thing I will say is that although there is, plenty of gore parts and things like that, there's not actually as much death maybe as I expected there to be. I expected maybe to have a few more scenes of like, well, we know it's about shark killing, basically, or a few more scenes as it not. And this is not to say this is a deathless film. It's not, and it has some great scenes in terms of, kind of shark attack, like horror, and ones that aren't shark attacks as well in terms of like deaths and stuff. But it is mainly, that we only get to see like a few key scenes of these attacks. I was almost expecting to see like either video footage which is used or things that have a few more kind of deaths at part. I guess was the only thing I was somewhat expecting. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I'm not sure if it's good that he's almost holding back a little bit and he's not making it just about, well, basically one you compared to before, Shark Night or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, because I really wanted to watch Shark Night randomly
in eye-popping
3D at home on a non-eye-popping TV.
You put the glasses on.
I put the glasses on and pretend, and I just couldn't find it anywhere apart from on YouTube in Hindi, which was an experience I'm not quite ready for. And it was just weird that this film kind of does line up with strangely being a bit like Shark Night, but a good version.
Instead of a cheesy
corny version. And I was watching this and I was thinking, how much are they going to be able to pull that off? Yeah. How much variation can you have on a shark attack? And I feel like, I don't want to say that it was underutilized, because what we do get, I think, was good. Particularly at the end, I thought it was really good. Yeah. But it was just that thing of, I feel like they treaded the line between doing like repeating the same thing, and it might be that somebody else watching this is kind of like, when it comes to the shark attacks, is expecting more variation. Maybe I don't want to give away spoilers, but if you're watching it, you might be like expecting different ways and different that kind of stuff. Whereas it's almost like it's a ritual, I would say.
It's more a routine of a serial killer.
Yeah.
It is a bit more of that kind of more, serial killer, someone's trapped and caught trying to survive kind of thing, than it is necessarily so much a shark film. Shark are almost used in that thing. In that way for the murders and stuff like that. It's very much part of the killer's routine than it is kind of, than it is like a full-on like constant sharks and stuff like that. I'd say there's also probably a part of that that's within budget and stuff like that. I think is another thing that we don't, we get shots, some beautiful, like the film looks really good. Yeah. I thought the film looked beautiful in certain shots. When we've got Zephyr surfing near the beginning, even some of the shots at night looks really nice. But we also get some really nice actual like shark footage that they're filmed. Yeah, from some underwater. that's mainly the way we actually see the sharks. Now, the other ones, whether those are real CGI props or whatever they are, there's a mixture of like some real shark shots and then some that are more, but none of it looks like it's well done. It doesn't look fake and things like that. It doesn't overshow it. That's what I mean. It doesn't constantly have to. It's not like what I assume Shark Night would have been full on shots of like fake shots of sharks coming at people and stuff like that.
I don't know. I didn't get around to watching.
Rewatch it. You watched it years ago.
I did on Blu-ray. Randomly brought on Blu-ray and CES. Another little story.
Where's your Blu-ray gone?
I don't know. I probably burnt it. I probably was too scared to watch it and destroyed it. And blanked my memory, hit my head against the wall until I forgot it.
I think it does work really well within that kind of serial killer kind of thriller of keeping you kind of on your toes, tense, like what's coming next.
Yeah.
To be fair, it had one scene that actually made me jump, and it had one scene that made me fucking cringe in my chair, where I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's it has a bit of mutilation at parts as well, whereas you're a bit like, oh god.
There were a couple of moments like that for me where I was like, oh god. Some of the things one of the main things that I wasn't really a big fan of is kind of outside of Jai Courtney's villain. There wasn't really much to the characters. At least I kind of felt that they were very much like there was minimal characterization. They tease at moments and they tease it like, oh, maybe this is why, maybe this is the motive, but it's fair. It's kind of it's like a tiny bit of salt in water. There's not really much there for me.
Yeah,
and they hint at why is this what's this character's motivation? But it doesn't really kind of go anywhere. It's not really explored. It does feel like
it has some little hints and things.
Some hints, but for me there wasn't that characterization.
So I think for the most part, as we said, this is not an easy one to kind of review without, because it basically goes from scene to scene of spoiler, which would just be giving away plot details, to be honest. Because, as we said, it's quite simple in its plotting kind of thing. That it is that kind of survival for a serial killer almost-ish film that has the kind of shark element embedded into it. So I guess mainly the wrap-up of this spoiler is whether people should go out and see it. Like, for me personally, I had a really good time with this.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I think Jai Courtney is doing a great job here. I really enjoyed his role, and I'd like to see him in more of this kind of fun and free kind of role. But he balances the line well between this kind of, at times, kind of slightly funny, dark kind of humour. Yeah. We've got a dancing scene at one point. You've got some of those elements to show this guy's a bit unhinged, but he also had a kind of, I thought, terrifying way that he was able to be so like oddly calm at points and things like that kind of added to the character. I didn't mind the main leading girl here. I thought she was okay. I thought she was fairly constructed. Yes, it doesn't go much deeper than surface level. And again, there were a couple of scenes of the Moses character outside of their relationship, which you're not really that bothered. It's purely for plot. It's not an enjoyable part of the film, really. But the shark attack stuff, when it happens and when it actually gets into it, like some of those parts, some of the actual killing parts, have some really good scenes, some really good that will keep you on, and it does keep you on edge. This is a kind of a surprise one that I didn't even know was coming, and I probably wouldn't have actually on a standard day wouldn't have gone and seen, to be honest.
Yeah, probably.
It just wouldn't have been one of my go-to. And to be honest, I would say if you want a good time out of the cinema, then this is a film to see.
I think I'd agree. I think it's kind of a sleeper hit. It is hard to go into it without kind of talking about the spoilers. But like I thought, Jai Courtney was absolutely class. I thought his character, like you said, it mixed this weird kind of callousness with this strange kind of. He's got a bit of a likability to him. Like, he's a great character, but you want him to get his comeuppance.
Yeah.
He does remind me of of Mick Taylor from Wolf Creek. He's kind of got that vibe to him. I think the shark scenes were utilised quite well, and it was, they were few and far between, but I feel like that was enough given the film. The drawbacks were, the lack of characterization for me, but then again, it's a very simple story, and it's quite, the story beats are there. It doesn't really have room or need for that, to be honest. The score was good, and it took me by surprise, so I'd recommend people check it out. I would also recommend that if you do check it out, come and let us know your thoughts on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at CMTH Podcast. We will be releasing our full spoiler-filled discussion on Friday, so you can come back then and see us throw chum into the water and have a chat about it. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Leave us a lovely review, and we will see you on Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.